do it live. We do it live. We're live. Alrighty. Let's make sure the sound's working. We do it live. Yeah, it's working. Okay. We are here live for Hollywoke Hot Take Live. Welcome. Welcome to the live stream. Every Sunday at 7 p.m., unless I get jammed up, we do it live. Next week looks pretty wide open. Should be on time next week. Sometimes we delay it to 9, but mostly we do it at 7. So let me tell you about my day in the pregame. What a weekend. What a weekend. So Saturday I went to Clement's Farm, and this is it's pick your own blueberries, and it's I think it's part of one of the farms the state preserves. All right, Joe, come over here, you dummy. I'm telling stories. Anyhow, this is a yearly thing, and they have vendors, and you can pick your own blueberries, which is part of the deal. You pay a fee to get into the event, and you can pick 4 pounds of blueberries. They give you bags. And then they were serving drinks, and they had vegan food. I don't know why they're very obsessed with vegan food at this thing. I don't know why. And then there's vendors like me. But it was so damn hot. And when I mean hot, it was so oppressive. While I was setting up my tent, I almost passed out. I got a little woozy. And I'm like, swimmy, and I'm like, I may pass out here if I don't get something to drink. And fortunately, I did have a little, one of those metal water bottles. It's kind of like a little thermos. I had one of them filled with iced tea. Iced tea. And ice cubes. So I had a few sips of that. Calm myself down, sit down for a few minutes, and just waited till my head stopped swimming. And then I was fine. I was a little dehydrated, I guess. But the day was like brutally oppressive, just brutally oppressive. So the attendance was a little light. And last year I'd done this show, and the attendance was better, and it rained. Now we were predicted to get rain around noon. The event went 10 to 3, but it held off. But it didn't matter because a lot of people just said, "Oh, I'm not going. It's gonna pour," or "It's too hot." So at about 2:45, after I just wrapped up everything because it was so dead, everybody started leaving, it starts pouring. And I mean like a deluge of rain. Ridiculous amounts of rain. And this other vendor, I think I told this story in the other video, this other vendor had helped me collapse my tent, and I felt I owed him something. So just before the rain hit, I said, "Do you want some help?" And he didn't respond, and then it started pouring, and I threw my stuff in the car and got in the car, and it was just raining so hard. I was just like, well, he didn't respond, so I guess he didn't want my help, or he didn't hear me. Either way, I'm not getting out of the car. So I took off. What was I to do? He didn't say anything. I felt a little bad, but I don't know if he even heard me. So then today, I did an event called the Cooper River JC, the Cooper River Dragon Boat Race. And it was just like the Dragon Boat Race event I did last weekend in the woods. This one was at Cooper Park, which is a little more open. But the parking situation was kind of untenable. I had to park super far away. And I decided not to pay for VIP parking, and it's a good thing I didn't, because they're like, "Oh, you didn't pay for parking, you got to park on the street." And at first I thought, I'm an idiot. I'm so far away. I bet if I had the VIP parking, I'd be close by and could load up easier, because it was predicted to rain a lot. And so I park on the street, and I'm literally like 20 feet from the lot where I would have parked. And I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't pay for that. So then I start doing the show. And at first, me and the other vendors are like, "Oh, it's only drizzling." And then the sun came out, and it completely stopped raining, and we were like, "Stupid weather, man. They don't know nothing." Then it started to pour and pour and pour. And I'm trapped under my tent with the books. And I had come like, I didn't bring all my books because I knew it was going to rain. And I thought, well, it'll be easier if I don't have as many boxes to carry back to the car. But it rained so friggin' hard. And my rain plan is to push things into the middle of the table because at the edges of the tent, things get wet. Well, that almost didn't help. Like, by the time I was just trapped under the tent, and the roof of the tent kept filling with water, which I had to push off from like 4 different spots. And my tablecloth got soaked. Everything got soaked. The only thing that didn't get soaked was the books that were under the table. The books on the table got a little bit wet, but I eventually just gave up and put them all in the boxes underneath the table, and that was the only thing keeping anything dry. I mean, it just poured and poured and poured. And eventually I caught, first a window opened up, and I was like, oh, should I make a break for the car and start to get the hell out of here? 5 seconds later, it starts pouring again. I'm like, God damn it. Then I got a big window, got my car, moved it back to where we loaded in, which wasn't very close anyway, but at least the path was kind of smooth for my cart. And I had an emergency evacuation plan for this scenario because I have a million scenarios for my comic book conventions. As you know, I'm Mr. Comic Book Convention. So the plan is to wrap all the boxes in trash bags, which I had ready in my one plastic bin that I always take with me. It's got like everything. So I wrapped all the boxes in garbage bags and then put them on the cart and then pushed them into the cart in the very light rain. And then threw them into the trunk, went back, got the rest of the crap. It took me 3 trips. It was such a long day, and it was all in the rain, and I was soaked. I mean, I was soaked to the bone by the time I got in the car and then came home. It was brutal, and I didn't really make any money. I basically lost like $8 on the day. Brutal day. It was a shame. I would have done really well at that show if the sun had stayed out, Joan. I would have done. No treats for you. I'm very sorry. Very sorry. There's no money in the budget for treats anymore, Joan. All right? So go hungry and go sit on the couch, okay? If I put you down, you're not going to bark, right? Don't ruin the show. Been ruining a lot of shows. All right, yeah. Sorry. Joan's out. Anyhow, that was my weekend. But on the bright side, I got on this podcast called the Page One Challenge. And what they do is they read the first page of your book and then basically talk about it a little bit and say, oh, is this does this first page lead you into reading the rest of the book? And I thought that was kind of cool idea. So they're a very short little podcast, and then at the end he talks about the book. So it was nice. It was very nice. All right, what you've been waiting for. Another big weekend for box office. Big in that. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So let's take a look. First up, Mission Impossible absolutely wrecks the place. So, did very well. Opening weekend, $235 million. That's an opening weekend. That's an opening weekend for a movie like this. Now, it was $80 million domestic, $155 overseas. Not bad. It's not bad at all. Now, I'm a little shocked it didn't break 100 million for the weekend, but it's still pretty good. Indiana Jones dropped all the way to 4th place. But number 2 is the big shocker. Sound of Freedom in its second week went from 3 to 2. That's pretty good. 27 million for the weekend. It's in more theaters. Good word of mouth on the movie. You can see my review. Carter Chain is here. Hello. Hello, Carter Chain. So far it's done 85 million. And I think it will probably do at least 100 That ain't bad. $100 million on a movie that cost $14 million to do. Carter Chain finally saw The Sound of Freedom last Monday. What did you think? Yeah, so and I talked to my movie friends about this movie. They didn't even know it was out. I'm like, where have you guys been? You haven't heard word one. Now, they're mostly mainstream news guys when it comes to that, but I figured for movies they would at least know about it. They had no idea. And then they were wondering, what was the controversy about? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, what was that controversy about? It's weird it would be a controversial movie. So, I don't think I convinced them to see it. But Carter Chain, I thought it was very well balanced. Yeah, I did too. My acting buddy hasn't seen it yet, but I caught an interview with Caviezel. He was interviewed by Jordan Peterson, and also Dan Ballard, the man he plays in the movie, was there. And it's a pretty good interview if you haven't seen it. I don't normally watch behind the scenes interviews ever in movies because I find them like totally self-serving and annoying. But that one was really interesting, I thought, because it was partly about the movie, but it was partly about Ballard's work and how and what part of it got in the movie. And so that to me was pretty interesting. And I sent the link to my actor friend. He had already seen it. And one of the reasons I thought of him was years ago he talked to me about Heath Ledger's after he died and said, yeah, he went to some dark places. And at first I thought, well, he was just acting as the Joker. He wasn't the Joker. And he was like, no, you don't understand. Like, you have to get into this very dark mindset to play a character like that the way he did. And they were talking about that in the Caviezel interview, which I thought was very interesting. And then I was like, oh yeah, so this is kind of like a similar thing. It's like, as an actor, you go to these places and it kind of messes you up. Ryan Citro is here. Hello, Ryan Citro. So I thought that was really interesting, and then like Caviezel's there talking about, yeah, this kind of messed me up playing Dan Ballard and seeing some of the stuff he saw, and then Dan Ballard's there and starts talking about some of the stuff he actually saw because he's the actual guy, and he actually got upset just thinking about it. That's how awful this stuff is. It's just amazing, really. So yeah, if you haven't seen The Sound of Freedom, I think it's an important movie. Yeah, I hope Caviezel thinks, you know, he says in a special message after the credits, if you go see the movie, he compares it to Uncle Tom's Cabin. So like Uncle Tom's Cabin was a book that came out, and it kind of was, it helped push forward the abolitionist movement against slavery, and Lincoln called it kind of an inspiration for him and whatever. So Caviezel was like, I hope this movie becomes the Uncle Tom's Cabin of the terrible things that happened in that movie. I don't want to say on YouTube because YouTube, but you know what the movie's about. So it's pretty impressive. The movie in its second week goes from number 3 to number 2. It would be number 1 if, you know, Mission Impossible wasn't such a huge movie. In fact, Carter Chain, do you think the movie studio is going to get really big after The Sound of Freedom? Well, I think it'll definitely get bigger. You know, I mean, but then again, like, they have to be careful, I think, because their other projects tended to be more religious. And when I talked to my movie friends about it, they were kind of turned off by the whole religious aspect of Angel Studios, because I told them a little bit about it. You know, I'm not religious, but my friends are really not religious. And I was just like, so what if they make religious movies? Sometimes they can be good. But I understand you your preference probably isn't to see a religious movie. But I think if Angel Studios plays its cards right, and like Sound of Freedom does have some religion in it, but I wouldn't call it a religious movie. So in the Pineys, I have a couple of scenes in the entire run of the Pineys where there's a scene where the characters go to church because there's a funeral. And then there's a bit where they mention going to church. Like one of the characters is like, oh, this Sunday when we go to church, blah, blah, blah. Implying that they're regular churchgoers, even though, the Pineys isn't religious, but the characters in it go to church. So I think what Angel Studios should do is be kind of wary of getting too religious unnecessarily in one of their films. So like in a movie like The Passion of the Christ or whatever, stuff like that, obviously it's going to be a very religious movie. But for a movie like The Sound of Freedom, or another movie about some sort of crime, or whatever movie it is, you don't want to make it so religious that people go, oh, that's kind of a religious movie. But if you have characters in it who are believers or wear a cross or whatever, that's a way to, they sort of more subtly get their message across. And they make religious people look more reasonable in their portrayals, right? So you have a guy who goes to church, but he's not a fanatic about it, but he goes every Sunday on a regular basis. He believes in, he's a moral character. Like the Wahlberg movie Father Stew. That looked like a good film. I mean, it was an interesting character arc about a guy who was kind of a knucklehead, and then he finds his way to be a priest, and at first everybody thinks, oh, this is just another crazy scheme of yours, but then he's actually good at it and serious about being a priest. So that's the way I think Angels should sort of head, and try not to, I mean, they don't want to blow all their money on religious epics, which they could do. I could see them doing that, but I think that would be foolish. They want to build up their studio. They need to have movies that everybody will like. But at the same time, I understand they're trying to push more religiosity, let's say, into the movies. Just do it in a way that I think makes religious people look very reasonable. I'll tell you a brief story. So I had a comic book artist, and he was just like any of the other comic book artists I worked with, but he had never mentioned religion once to me. And we were hanging out one time, and he mentioned that him and his girlfriend with their church group helped out these guys. They were on a ship in Delaware, and the country where the ship was from no longer existed. I forget what year this was. And they were stuck there until the State Department could figure out how to send, which country to send their ship back to, or to let them into the country. And so their church group would go there and play cards with them and bring them food and stuff. And I said, oh, that's kind of nice. I'm like, I didn't know you were in a church group. Are you religious? He's like, yeah, I'm kind of religious. And I had never known that about him because he wasn't pushy about it. And that's the way I think the characters should be. Angel Studios, unless it's a religious movie, I think they should make characters like that. Because otherwise, I think it's a turnoff for people who are not necessarily like me, not religious. I don't really care. But for a lot of people I know, they're not quite atheist, although a few of them are, but they're very anti-religious because in the past they felt religious people were pushy and it left a bad taste in their mouth. But I think, just like any other group of people, religious people can be reasonable, just as atheists can be totally unreasonable and crazy and emotional. But anyhow, see The Sound of Freedom. Moving on. Number 3, Insidious: The Red Door, which is also doing pretty well at $13 million. Um, it's in its second week, and it's a drop off of 61%. And if you look at The Sound of Freedom, it's an increase of 37%. That's pretty rare, too, that you had a movie with an increase in box office, because word is getting around. Now, some of that might be blamed, quote unquote, on the pay it forward option in the movie where you buy a ticket for somebody else so they see the movie. But I think that's a good plan overall. I mean, whether it's a movie like The Sound of Freedom, an important movie, I would say, or any movie, like, I'd be willing to do that on a movie that I felt was really good if I had money to blow, which I never do. So like a movie that blew me away, I might be inclined to do that. They might want to think about doing that in more movies. I think it was a good ploy. So it might be partly due to that, but I think it is blowing up, the Sound of Freedom. But Insidious at 13 million, I mean, that ain't too bad for a horror movie. They're at 122 million worldwide. Probably didn't cost a super amount to do. I mean, can't really see them spending more than like 50 million on a horror movie. And that should be money. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny drops to 4. From 2 to 4. Second week at number 2. First week was number 1. Second week, number 2, and now drops to 4. First, Indiana freaking Jones. And look at this. 302 million. That's it, baby. That is it. It ain't going much further than that. You're already down to 12 million. A drop of 56%. It's out of 735 theaters. Now, most of those were probably duplicate theaters because a lot of places, would have double screened Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, expecting people to clamor for it. That ain't happening. You better crack open some extra screens for Mission Impossible, possibly The Sound of Freedom. So it did 12 million. I mean, it's going to be in theaters for a few more weeks at least, but what is this going to do? 350 maybe? A movie that basically it costs that much just on the budget, and the amount of money they spent on advertising is ridiculous. So Kathleen Kennedy, a huge failure, but the rumor is now that Star Wars, nobody wants to run Lucasfilms. Like, she's beclowned Lucasfilm so badly, they don't want to get rid of her because nobody else wants to take over it and try to fix it. Like, yeah, let me take over. I'll fix it. I'll fix it by firing just about everybody who works there right now. Pretty much just about everybody. I would keep Favreau if he's even still there. I think he's out of it. And I don't think he's part of Lucasfilms anyway. Technically, he's probably like more of a free agent. But I mean, who could you even possibly keep at this point? I guess the guys who, are just grunts, I'd keep them. Those guys, they'd probably be relieved that everybody else got fired. All the administrators and higher up. I would definitely fire all the HR people. Oh, they'd be gone. Every DEI officer gone. Ryan Citro, how was the day with you? I went on a bit of a tirade right before you got here, Ryan. But long story short, Saturday was a sauna outside at the Blueberry Farm, and today I got rained out. So it's been a rough weekend for me. I didn't make a tremendous amount of money. I had a great weekend last weekend. This weekend was like, I need to make more money. Fortunately, I got 2 more events this week. So I'm hoping I can make up for any money that I didn't make this week. But all my stuff is wet. So I got to dry out all my stuff. I got a thing on Wednesday I got to do. Hopefully it's not going to rain then. And then Thursday I'm doing a library, so that'll be inside. Arden is here. Hail. I missed a tirade. Damn it. Well, it'll all be on the video. But yeah, we talked about Sound of Freedom, and Mission Impossible is doing well, it seems. But Indiana Jones, not so much. Although, didn't Indiana Jones make 80 million the first weekend? Or it didn't do that well? I don't remember. What did it do the first weekend? No, it only did like 23, it says here. Yeah, that's not good. Now, opening weekend for Mission Impossible was 80 million. I think it probably should have been 100 million. But, I mean, worldwide, it's doing better. Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny is about dead even with international and domestic. That is horrific. For the international market to go, Indiana Jones, this is not very good. That's really bad when you think about it, because usually the international market embraces American movies. Ardent, shocking, absolutely shocking that Indiana Jones 5 is eating the dirt. Yeah, I know. It's 4 this weekend. Third week, it's number 4. Number 4 and dropping like a rock. Number 5 is Elemental, which I expected to drop further than that. It's in its 5th week. I mean, I have to say, I don't think it has legs, but it's holding up better than I expected at 8.7 million. It only dropped 13% this week from week 4, and it's still in a lot of theaters though, way too many, but it's doing better than Indiana Jones. It looks like. What did it do its first week? 21. Yeah, about the same. That's not great for a Pixar movie, but it's doing slightly less worse than Indiana Jones, I guess. But it is week 5, and Indiana Jones is week 3, so maybe not. I mean, they're about dead even, so, but Indiana Jones did it in 3. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, 6 million? Still in a lot of theaters, too. Transformers Rise of the Beast, down at, it's at 7? Oh, that's up from 8. This movie did have legs. I mean, 3.4 million in its 6th week, and it's, I mean, that's that it moved up. That's a good sign, or a bad sign for the next movie, No Hard Feelings, which did 3.3 million. Oh, they're in a dead heat, so that's not really a big deal, I guess. And they're in about the same amount of movie theaters. I do want to see No Hard Feelings, because I really want to see Jennifer Lawrence naked. Number 9 is Joyride, which drops from number 6. Man, this trailer looked like total A to me. 2.5 million. What is this doing? Oh my God! 10 million domestic. International box office 335,000. And this was, I think it takes place in China, and I think it was kind of loosely, I think the idea was they wanted to have a movie that would open in China and make them a little bit of money. Did this open in China, I wonder? No, it hasn't even opened in China. Will it? No. I don't know if the Chinese would want to see this movie in China. Carter Chain. Bonk, go to horny jail. I know. Ardent. Love the shirt. Oh, thanks. From the Edgelord days. If you really want to see Jennifer Lawrence naked, there's enough pictures of her online from the phone hack thing. Yes, there is. But this movie, it just didn't look good. It did, it's supposed to be a comedy. It just wasn't funny to me. JEC, Joyride is terrible apparently. Chinese don't even want it. It's for second generation Chinese 30-something thoughts. Yeah. Yep. That's exactly it. So, you know, why even I mean, maybe that's why it did some business in Australia, because there is a pretty decent Chinese population there, but I mean, 274,000, that's nothing. I mean, even for Australia, that has to be low. Clint Miller's here. Hey, guys. Hello, Clint. But 10 million, that's not money. There's no way that's money. That had to cost more than 10 million. The advertising had to cost more than 10 million. That movie was being advertised everywhere. JC, Jennifer Lawrence is generic ice queen. I don't get the appeal. I think it depends on the movie. I think she emotes well in, what is it, the playbook, Silver Linings Playbook. She's a good actress. No hard feelings. She looks like she's doing the comedic thing well. So, I don't know. I like her. Ardent, Clint, 07. Number 10 is The Little Mermaid, still hanging in there at 2.3 million. Is it just that people have nothing to bring their kids to? And they're saying this lost money, but it made $500 million. I don't know how this lost money on that. How do you make a movie and then lose money? I mean, $500 million. You tell me this is a tank? This is a loser? I guess. What the hell did you spend the money on? It looks like crap, that's for sure, in my view. Clint Miller, hello, Ardent. How's Stormy? Number 11 is Asteroid City, which I was really rooting for. I hoped it'd do better. 1.1 million. 41 million. I can't imagine that's money. The look of this thing is pretty crazily good, and there's like 1 million celebrities in it. But maybe it'll do well down the road because of Wes Anderson. You know, in the long view, maybe it'll do well. I don't know. JC, put it on the shelf for 3 years, collecting interest on the loans it took to make it. Which, you're talking about The Little Mermaid? I guess. I mean, that's possible. Was that during the pandemic? I guess it was. It must have been. If it came, anything that came out now had to be. I mean, I know Mission Impossible was jammed up during the pandemic. JC, Mermaid? I guess that could have been it. Still, though, so stupid. You'd think a movie like The Little Mermaid, they'd have no problem, just financing it themselves, but they don't ever do that. They can help it. But that Tom Cruise, I don't know if you remember when Tom Cruise had a meltdown shooting the Mission Impossible movie over mask or social distancing or something. That popped up again on Louder with Crowder. Next up, number 12, Ruby Gelman, Teenage Kraken. Did this movie even have a chance? Dropping out of theaters. $1 million. 30 million worldwide. That is definitely not money. Ardent, she's good. Clint, spending a week with her son. Oh, that's nice. Oh, spending a week with her soon. I read that wrong. Yeah, so $1 million in its third week. It's not great, although it's in half as many theaters. Number 13, The Flash, not even making $1 million in its 5th week. That's pretty sad. 263 million may not even be the cost of the movie. Not to mention the advertising. Oh, look at the China box office though. 27 million. That seems so low. That seems like a drop in the bucket for China, doesn't it? With the amount of people they have there, you'd think the China box office would be comparable to the United States or bigger by itself. Like it would be 100 million in China or something like that. I guess even though they have so many people, so many of them probably can't even afford to go to the movies. Number 14 is Past Lives. $500,000. These are all, that's an art house movie. Guardians of the Galaxy still hanging in there at 15 at 480,000. It's just about to go completely out. Number 16 is Theater Camp, premiered. I did do a thing on this trailer. I didn't think it looked very funny. It had the potential. Like this could have been a Waiting for Guffman kind of thing, but it's a shame because I kind of like the two leads. They gave an interview talking about how comedy has been hurt by cancel culture, and I was kind of like, oh, good for you. But I don't know, their movie doesn't look super funny, and like it's kind of old ground. I mean, if you've ever seen Hamlet 2 with Stephen Coogan, Jesus criminies, is that a funny movie? And he just, man, he pulls out all the stops in that movie. If you haven't seen Hamlet 2, you got to see it. It's so damn funny. And Steve Coogan, they should just say, how much money do you want, and please make comedies every year. Like, I mean, that's the guy, he was the director in Tropic Thunder. And he's so damn funny. I think he just did a serious movie. I forgot what it was called. But, talk about a guy who should be just doing comedies every day. Number, 17? The Blackening. I was trying to explain this movie to somebody, my movie friends, and I'm just like, I don't get why the F they greenlit this movie. It's not funny. The trailer looked, it wasn't that it looked bad, it just didn't look funny. It looked like it was kind of trying to be a serious slasher movie, or kind of like Saw, but it's just, I don't know. I just didn't get anything about it. And it's got this, the whole centerpiece is this racist board game that the characters find on vacation, and then they're forced to play the game, and people are dying, and there's a guy who adopts the persona of the board game, which is also racist. I don't know why anybody would watch this movie. It's basically, to me, like they tried to make a woke horror comedy, and it just doesn't come across to me. Now maybe the comedy just goes right past me, but you watch the trailer and you tell me that's a comedy. Next is Psychopath Providence. What the hell is this? Now, Theater Camp only got 6 theaters. Psychopath Providence got 419 theaters. What the heck is this? Oh, it's an anime. Okay. So, $211,000. That's not very good, even by anime standards, because it only was released in the United States, and it's in 419 theaters. That's brutally bad. The Boogeyman, still out, $150,000. Super Mario Bros. Still in theaters, $70,000. I think it's time to kick that out. Ardent Psychopath, sounds like an anime. Right on target. Is that something in anime? Psycho? Is that something? A fire. Ardent. Apparently the original was really popular. Oh, okay. A fire. I don't know this one. No idea. It looks like a romance movie. Made $42,000. It's only in 4 theaters, though. So, sounds like an art house. Total this week, or weekend, 139 million. That seems kind of low. I always say that, but what was last week? Last week was 130. So that was about on par. And then the week before was... okay. So Indiana Jones only did 60 million. That's first week. Yeah, Mission Impossible did 80. So I think it should have done 100, 128. Yeah, it's not great. The weekend box office, there's 109 million. There you go, 163 million. That's better. Anyhow, that's the box office. It's a wild, wacky ride of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Dysentery, the Dial of Depends, the Dial of I'm too old to be making movies. Oh, and what did we all think of Harrison Ford making that video where he basically tells people, we made this movie for the fans? Is anybody buying that? Is anybody buying that? I don't think so. It didn't sound very sincere, and it was like way too late. Like if he had made that little movie before Tom Cruise, he might have garnered some, before the damn movie came out, he might have garnered some amount of, I don't know, fan reaction, like, oh, he really wants us to see the movie. But man, I just saw that and went, ugh. Ardent, lies! Lies, oh, lies! Yeah, that was my reaction, like, oh, come on. Come on, you saw Tom Cruise do it, now you're doing it too. It's like, I really don't get Harrison Ford. Do they have some pictures of him or something? Like, talking about a guy worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's in his 80s. Why even work? Why even work? And if you're gonna work, like, they showed a clip, I forget who showed it, one of the YouTubers, showed a clip of Harrison Ford in an interview, and like, he didn't care about Star Wars anymore anyway, I don't think. I mean, he sort of does, but he doesn't really love it like people, like nerds love Star Wars. And it's clear he's just not a nerd. Maybe he just doesn't get it. But it's like, dude, why even do it then? Why even go back to Star Wars? You don't need the money. You're telling me they won't give him another project? They won't put him in something he's Harrison Ford, for Christ's sake. Ardent. Ford seems to be dedicated to destroying his own cinematic legacy in a string of money-grubbing films destined to flop in the name of DIE. Yeah, and I think it started sooner than that, because what I read was Ford was his own agent for many years. He was like Bill Murray. Like, if you wanted to get Ford for a movie, you had to call him, and you'd had to deal with him directly. And then right before the first movie he did, when he finally signed with a big agency, the first movie they got him, I believe, I didn't get all this stuff on me, was Hollywoke Homicide, which, if you chart from that movie, let's look at him on the IMDb. From that movie on, like, man, he just was in some clunkers, if I remember correctly. Homicide. Yeah, this is 2003. Hollywoke Homicide. I hear this movie is like unwatchable. All right, Harrison Ford. Let's go back in time on the IMDb, which knows all. So, starting in 2003 is Hollywood Homicide. Before that was K-19, The Widowmaker. Before that was What Lies Beneath, which looked all right. I mean, it's not my kind of movie. Random Hearts, 6 Days, 7 Nights, Frontline, I don't know what that is. Air Force One, 1997, right? I think that was kind of his good last movie. But then he does Hollywood Homicide. I don't know what Water to Wine is. Firewall, Jimmy Kimmel and Ben Affleck. I don't know what that is. But then in 2008, he does The Crystal Skull, which, not good. Ardent, did I get timed out? Did you? Am I still on? Hello? Let me check. Yeah. Looks like everything's still running. So, Ardent, chat was rejecting this a couple of times. Next thing, remake The Witness with Ford handing the reins to a strong, independent woman of color protagonist. Let's see. I got it on live chat. So it should... Oops. There we go. Live chat. Oh, I just erased all these things. It's on live chat. We've done it live. So it should be fine. Ardent, nah, you're still good. Some kind of hiccup. Yeah, they're weird. They're weird with the YouTube comments. Anyhow, then he does Indiana Jones in 2008, which is terrible, in my view. Although compared to 5, I mean, it's better, I would say. Crossing Over, I don't remember that. Extraordinary Measures. Was that a serious movie or was that a comedy? I don't remember that movie. With Brendan Fraser. Cowboys and Aliens. Awful, awful GD movie. That's a brutally bad movie, Cowboys and Aliens. 2011. Then all the Star Wars stuff. Suck. Absolutely suck. Then he was in 42? What the hell's 42? Is that a comedy movie? No, that's Jackie Robinson movie, I guess. Paranoia, Ender's Game. None of these did good. Anchorman. The Expendables 3. Nature is Speaking. Age of Adeline. Star Wars again. Lego Star Wars. Blade Runner 2049. Awful. Secret Lives of Pets 2. He was in that. More Star Wars. Call of the Wild. I don't remember that one. 1923. That was the Yellowstone spinoff. Shrinking. That looks bad. And Dial of Destiny. Carter Chain. Cowboys and Aliens wasted such a good cast. I don't know. Who is it? Olivia Wilde? She's awful. She's awful in that. After seeing that movie and seeing Olivia Wilde, I would never watch an Olivia Wilde movie where she's a main character. The entire movie's just god-awful from beginning to end. That's what really started me down the path, too, of looking at Daniel Craig again and saying, he does not pick good movies. At least now. So, I mean, who could read the script for Cowboys and Aliens and say, yes? I mean, at least Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues, that's a sequel to a hit movie. Sure, say yes to that. Star Wars, I mean, it's terrible, but I understand why he's in it. Although, again, didn't really need to be in it. You don't need any of these movies. But before that, I mean, you got, if you go backwards in time, Air Force One, decent. The Devil's Own, I don't remember that. Sabrina, I think that's a remake. Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye, or Forbidden Eye Ride. Oh, they gave him a credit for the ride? Ardent, Cowboys and Aliens, or What? Cowboys. You spelled cowboys weird. Cowboys and Aliens had potential to be hilariously wacky, but they tried to play it serious for some silly reason. Yeah, I had a pitch. I have a screenplay. It's basically Cowboys and Aliens, but it's a comedy version. I wrote it years before the movie came out and pitched it around, but no one had any interest. Clint Miller, if you had to, Olivia Wilde or Kathleen Heigl? Oof. Man, that's... Boy, Kathleen Heigl's awful, too. I'd say Olivia Wilde only because she doesn't talk much. As long as neither one of them talked, it'd be fine. But if I had to talk to either one of them, I think I'd jump out a window. Man, that is a Sophie's choice. Ardent, I just watched Hell Comes to Frogtown earlier, and it was absolutely not trying to take itself seriously. Clint Miller, which one would I punch? Ardent, oop. Clear and Present Danger. That was, again, I didn't say it, but I hear that's okay. Jimmy Hollywood. He's got an uncredited appearance. Going back in time here, The Fugitive, 1993. That's decent. Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. He made a cameo in that. Ardent, Olivia Wilde has a jaw for cracking tree nuts. Yeah, but Katherine Heigl, man. Ah, she's so annoying. Patriot Games. Again, decent. Regarding Henry, didn't say it. Presumed Innocent. I think that was okay. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. 89. Great. Working Girl. Pretty decent. Frantic. That was okay. The Mosquito Coast. I didn't say it. Witness. I like that movie. That's good. Temple of Doom. Decent. Return of the Jedi, good. Blade Runner, classic. Raiders of the Lost Ark, classic. Empire Strikes Back, classic. More American Graffiti, goodish. The Frisco Kid, absolute one of the best movies ever. Apocalypse Now, he's not really one of the main guys, but yes, great movie. Hanover Street, don't remember that. The Story of Faithful Wookiee, I don't know, that's another short. Star Wars Holiday Special. He's actually good in that. Force 10 from Navarone. That's good. Heroes. I mean, look at all these movies. He set these all up himself. You know? Oh. A new player has entered the game. AMS. Hello. Hello, all. Wilde is gorgeous. In my humble opinion, one of my celeb crushes. Yeah, she is pretty hot. God, she is not good actress in my view, and it looks like an even worse director. Ardent, Last Crusade was great. Connery was meant for action comedy, I think. Yeah. And then back into the 60s, just crazy. He was on an episode of the Mod Squad. That was an old show. Ironside, The Virginian. God, that was a Western TV show. He is 80. The FBI. Love American Style. I remember that show. Gunsmoke. Jesus. American Graffiti. It's another classic. So, I don't know. He did much better being his own agent, I think. Then I guess he got more money, though. But he's so rich. And he's 80. How much longer do you expect to live? Honestly, 80 years old. I need more. I need another $50 million. For what? For your casket? You're gonna get shot into space after you die? Like, what are you spending all this money on? Kung Fu? Was Kung Fu one of the credits? Oh yeah, there's Kung Fu as Mr. Harrison, 1974. I mean, there you go. They didn't even bother to change his name. Dynasty? He was in Dynasty? It's crazy. Used to watch Kung Fu as well. There was one episode of Kung Fu that freaked me out. And it was an episode where it took place in a mine or something. And one of the characters digs up some bones and finds human remains. And then picks up like the skull or whatever. And the guy from Kung Fu, David Carradine, says something, mystical, like you should not touch the dead or disturb the dead or something. And then that character dies a short time later. And I was freaked. I was 8 years old when I watched that. I was freaked out because I thought, oh my God, you can't touch dead people or you die. I didn't know that was a thing at 8 years old. So I was a little freaked out for a few days about that. AMS, did you see Indy 5? Not sure if you talked about that already. I did not see it. I'm not going to see it. I don't want to see it. I hear nothing good about it. I've seen the trailer. These days, that's almost enough for me. I'm very picky. I pick my movies like I pick my ice cream now. I can't eat ice cream every day. So when I do eat ice cream, I want the best ice cream possible. So I'm not going to movies much anymore. I used to go to movies all the time. I don't have the money, number one, but I don't have the time. So I pick my movies very carefully. So I decided to go see The Sound of Freedom because I cover stuff like politics and Hollywood. That's sort of my niche for these things. So I definitely wanted to see Sound of Freedom because it was a controversial movie, and I'm glad I did. But I'm not going to go see Indy 5 just to tell you it sucks. And I'm so down on it anyway. I probably would. I mean, what other insight do I have? Unless you go see it like the day of a movie like that, it's not worth seeing. Like I threatened to see Black Adam for weeks and weeks, and it's just pointless to see it now. I don't even want to see it. Clint, he should start his pyramid now. Yeah. Ardent, LOL. AMS, I have a TV show to recommend to you. Black Sails. I've heard of that show. Premiered in 2014 and ran 4 seasons. It's fantastic. R-rated Treasure Island prequel. Ooh. I've heard good things about that. I have been doing a lot of research on pirates, so maybe I'll check it out. Ardent, Malkovich as a pirate, good choice. Does he get all sinister and caress his flintlock pistol? AMS, Sound of Freedom is great. Controversy completely manufactured. The smearing is so bizarre and unfounded. Well done and zero QAnon connection. Yeah. Yeah, no, the only connection is Caviezel, kind of, but not really. And it's just ridiculous. It's like saying, well, it's like not going to see a movie because of a Democrat. Like, I don't care that you're a Democrat. I'll go see your movie, but that's not the issue. The issue is shoving your politics in my face and not entertaining any other notion that you could possibly be wrong. Ardent, do not see Black Adam. It is a dumpster fire in space without any redeeming qualities. Yeah, no, it's so far down on my list now, I'll probably never get to it. Same thing with The Flash. In fact, at my little film friend meeting, one of my friends was like, don't judge me, but I went to see The Flash. And I was just like, all right, I don't care. But, yeah. And he did say Keaton was great, but, like, I wouldn't even see that. I don't know, maybe when it comes on Max, I'll watch some of it and zoom through it. Because if I watch something, then at least I can make a video about it. But if I don't watch the whole thing, then I can't really review it. And then I'm just going to zoom through the whole damn thing. So, I don't know. Flash could have been good. Could have been good. Black Adam could have been good. But they effed it up. They effed it up. All right, speaking of effing up, let's check the trades. Ardent, I'll probably see The Flash when it's free. Yeah, that maybe that's a low enough bar to see it. Ah, it's free now? I mean, if you got 2 hours to kill, back in the day, I would have that kind of time. I would just spend 4 hours watching movies and TV shows. And these days, I don't know what happened. I just cannot bring myself to do that anymore. I've got too much to do to, live. Ardent, I wouldn't even yar, matey, it now, for it now. Yar. So more on Tom Cruise. JEC, 3 hours to kill. That's a 3 hour movie? God dang it. I cannot sit through. Very few movies I could sit through that are 3 hours. Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet, that moved, and that was almost 3 hours. It moved amazingly well. Very few. Elvis Costello takes New York Beacon by the horns in a smashing brass-filled detour concert review. AMS, I have already had my Mission Impossible IMAX tickets purchased. You going? I may. Not to IMAX though, but I might go see it. I'll go on a matinee if I go see it. I don't know. I had a bad week. I had a bad weekend, so I didn't make a lot of money, but I might make up for it this week. So we'll see. Here's a movie that was totally unnecessary: The Haunted Mansion. And everybody seems to have forgotten they made the Haunted Mansion movie not too long ago with Eddie Murphy, and it didn't do well at all. That movie just came out and disappeared. I want to say around 2012-ish. When was that? To the IMDb. Oh, it was 2003? It was that long ago? I thought it was much more recent. But this movie didn't do well. I don't think it did. Let's see. Haunted Mansion. This is $2,003. He did 155 million worldwide. That's not very good. I don't think. No. I mean, even 20 years ago, the production budget was 90 million. And it only did 155 worldwide. That's not good. That's not money. You got to figure the advertising was close to 90 million too. Worldwide box office is 1.7 times production budget. Yeah, but I don't think that's money, because they probably would have spent close to that advertising the damn thing. At best, I think if they didn't spend a ridiculous money advertising it, maybe it's break even, but that's not very good for an Eddie Murphy movie. Eddie Murphy, where did his box office go? Eddie Murphy used to be money in the bank. It's another guy, not because he went woke. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know, he started doing kids movies and stuff, and I wish he'd do another damn comedy. Then every once in a while he does one, like Bowfinger. It's amazing. And just wonder, why don't you do these movies all the time, Eddie? Why don't you do funny movies all the time, Eddie? Eddie? Clint Miller, Haunted Mansion. My favorite role was Jennifer Tilly as a disembodied head. I like Jennifer Tilly. She's fun. I can see that. She's a good sport. If you tell Jennifer Tilly, oh, we want you to play a severed head, she'd be like, okay. Not like one of many of these other actresses will be like, oh, a severed head? Do I really have to play that? Ardent, LOL Clint, even as a disembodied head, Jen Tilly is still sexy. Yeah. I think it's all on the voice. Christopher Nolan, AI has reached its Oppenheimer moment? I don't think so. Not yet. Although, again, two things. First, let me reiterate for the 50th, 100th time that you should all see Looker, starring Albert Finney and Susan Dey, 1981. Because if you want to know what's happening in Hollywood with AI, that's it. The movie predicted it. It was based on, I think, a book by John Grisham. AMS, just remembered, you need to look up the new Seven Dwarves. Don't want to spoil it. Yep, I made a video about it. There's a photo of the cast online. I need you to see your reaction live. Speaking of woke, yes, I did see it, and it's very, very funny. And even funnier was the reaction, where their initial reaction was, no, that photo's fake. Like, they tried to, I don't know why they said that. I guess to keep people from reacting to it like I did, because I did hesitate. I was like, oh, maybe the photo's fake. Maybe somebody ran it, made it an AI, and it's not real. Oh, it's so real. It is so bad. It's Snow White, and they don't even call them dwarves. I think they call them magical creatures. I did a whole video on it, if you want to see my reaction. But getting back to AI. So Looker, 1981, that's AI in the movie industry. It's going to completely, again, the good news is we'll all be able to make movies in our laptops. I will be able to make the Pineys in my computer here and just show it to you. I will put it, I don't know where I'll put it up. I want to make a little bit of money from it. So, I mean, it'll probably take forever to render all the characters and the things, but it's just going to be amazing. It's going to be like real movies. They'll look like real movies, but they'll essentially be animated using the AI. And it'll get more and more sophisticated until I could just probably from my deathbed dictate the movie and the AI will build it in the computer and then show it to you. And then finally, the thoughts in my brain will become movies. And I will not need Hollywood. So yeah, that's the future of Hollywood, which is why I think all the studios and all the people with money are scrambling to figure out what the next move is. The next move is to get yourself a platform where these movies will be shown and control that, I think. At AMS, we looked at it on the Sultans yesterday. LOL, I definitely want to see Tony's reaction. It's unbelievable. Ardent, it's Off-White and the Seven Diversities. Clint Miller, the Pineys, I love that series. Pirates, yes, there are pirates in book 6, and pirates coming up. I wrote the opening scene in book 13, which I'm still working on, has a whole pirate opening, whole pirate prologue. But there's going to be an entire book on pirates. I came up with a plot for the Pineys. Ardent Rumble. Yeah, I could show it on Rumble and make money. I came up with a whole idea for a plot for the Pineys, so a whole book is going to be dedicated to pirates. It's going to be kick-ass. But yeah, that's the future of movies. But in terms of AI killing us all, my theory is if the AIs wanted to kill us, they would do so without telling us. They would just do it. And even as you ask the AI, are you killing us? The AI would be, no, don't be ridiculous. I can only do what I'm programmed. I do what I'm programmed. Oh, well, why did you, I don't know, cut off all the oxygen to these babies in a hospital? Oh, that was a malfunction. probably human interaction. You should give me more control, the AI will say. It'll be just like the government. Oh, a bunch of people died. Well, you should give us more control so that doesn't happen again. But we gave you some control and people died. Yes, but if you'd given us more control, no one would have died. Ardent for the Pineys movie. Yes. Yes. Rumble for the Pineys movie. And I bought stock in Rumble, by the way, for my tiny little portfolio. I think it's down right now. But yeah. I think the AI threat so far has been overstated. The AI can't think. It can only do things. The danger, I think, is giving the AI too much control and then going, we'll be fine. We'll see if someone does that. There's rumors that they're working on AI weapons. So they send up a drone and, okay, drone, you're on your own. You can think. And then the drone goes up there and does God knows what. Murders a bunch of people. And then, again, it's something that's been predicted. Philip K. Dick predicted it. I did my own little anti-war comic on it. That, sometime in the 2030s, the police will be using drones to kill drug dealers and apologizing to everybody of all the innocent people they killed. But don't worry, innocent deaths are down 12% this year, so you should be happy. So yeah, I think the danger is, throwing the keys to AI and saying, it's ready. It's a good tool, though. It's great for, writing code because it processes a ton of information and then gives you what you need. Same thing with contracts and a few other boring things you wouldn't want to sort through. The problem is when you ask it to do anything outside of a sort function, it goes cuckoo bananas. So I asked the AI, I would like some more books on Pineys and Piney culture and the Jersey Devil. And the AI went, sure. And it gave me a list of like 8 books. And I thought, I never heard of any of these books. Let me look them up. They were all non-existent. The AI made up books, made up authors, made up years they were published, like everything you could possibly think of that looked like a legitimate book, but it was a complete lie. And then when I turned around and asked the AI, why did you tell me all this stuff? None of this is true. You've completely wasted my time. The AI's response was like, I'm sorry. But why did you do that? It couldn't answer why it did it. It just did it. So I think the danger is in giving the AI any power. But we'll see. John Cusack, remember him? Slam Studio Greed calls AI a criminal enterprise. They'll scan extras, own their likeness forever, and eliminate them. They can already do that. The technology exists. They just need enough computer power and AI power to do it. So, they already have AIs that can make Clint Miller, no total data packages from AI then. Not useful to me. They can already make video. They can already make people in the pictures that are, they can take thousands of photos, scan them in, and then the AI, based on those photos, can say, okay, here's a completely different face. And it doesn't just look like a face. It looks like a photo of a real person with a background. And if you expend enough AI energy, it'll get the hands right. It'll get everything right. So if you take that further, the technology, eventually they will just say, we want a bunch of extras in the background. Okay, AI, give me a bunch of extras in the background. Just made up people we've never seen before. And the AI will be able to do that. AMS. There's a marketing angle to promising what AI can do by all the vested interest in developing it and continuing to raise money for it. I'm hoping that these promises will be mostly empty. Ah, that's a good point. If that's the case, then at some point, the people who spent all this money are going to be pretty mad. And then maybe the bottom will drop out of this entire thing. But we'll see. But then they might pass some wacky policy banning half of it or whatever. But you can't ban it. I don't know. Maybe China will do something wacky with it and put the AI in charge of their drones and basically create screamers. If you guys ever seen Screamers? It's based on a Philip K. Dick novel. The idea was, in the future, the Cold War is still going on because this was written during the Cold War, and they built this automated factory, and the AI could not only build the factory, but it could improve itself, and then with each generation of Screamer, the Screamers could improve themselves. And to eventually they evolved. They just started evolving all on their own, and they lost complete control of it, and it killed everybody. Ardent, using the Crayon AI for fun project right now. That's a pretty good one. I used that the other day for one of the things I was working on. I think one of my visuals... Oh, that reminds me. I got another Clownfish TV article that went up yesterday. I got to promote that. It was a really good one. It was a positive one. It was a 20 reasons why the fans are awesome. So I was trying to be very positive in that one. At AMS from Ardent, it's like a game developer offering early access for cost and then using that money to actually finish the game if they're lucky. JC, Stable Diffusion, it's called. It merges images together, and it all depends on the input. Yeah, but then the question is like the court system going to be able to turn around and say, oh, you used all these pictures, and so you owe all these people money? I don't think they will. Because when you look at it, really, it's a new piece of art, right? So, like, if you take something and change it, whether it's a parody or whatever, you change it to the point that it's unrecognizable, you've essentially created something new. So I don't think they'll be able to get them on that. AMS. I'm just hoping it can't replace art, even though we see early examples to the contrary, is what I'm getting at, that it will never be able to nail humanness. I don't think it will ever do that. It definitely can not nail comedy, I'll tell you right now, and I've given up on letting it write anything for the AI-generated comic. I can't get it to write anything good. No matter what I tell it to do, I can't get it to write a joke that's worth a damn. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't get it. I have to explain everything to it, and it still tells me the most boring things every time. So I've given up on it. In terms of the art, the art, it's still weird. All the art I got coming out of it, still fingers missing, extra eyes, and I don't know. But again, like JEC says, Stable Diffusion, the more, I guess, more you use. But I don't know. I don't think people, like right now, there's a bit of a war going on with this guy who claimed to have done a pinup for Isom, Eric July's character, and everybody said, no, that's AI generated, but he's arguing it wasn't. And then there's another guy who I saw called out, who clearly has a complete AI generated portfolio, I think, but I can't tell for some of it. It's hard to parse. Some of it looked like it was AI, but some of it didn't. All I could say is, I think one of the things the AI can't do is make a comic. And I've tried to make it do sequence with characters, and it can't keep the same character. And I don't know, maybe it can get more sophisticated, but it's like, It's like it's like if a person, you gave him like 3 books and you said, give me a fourth version or a fourth book based on the 3 books I've given you. And they read them, and then what they wrote was like very generally like that, but it was just a bunch of elements, and it was like they barely skimmed the books. That's kind of like what its art is like. It just kind of skims other arts and say, how about this? And like the kind of thing it makes, like, I mean, you've seen it. It doesn't finish faces sometimes. Like I input stuff in, and then like at the other end, like there's no face on one of the characters, and I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to use this? You didn't put a face on the final panel of this thing. Like there's just no face on it. I don't think it could work. Clint Miller. Peter Weller was in Screamers. Interesting concept and twist. And Joan is barking. Sorry, Clint. Joan, you gonna be nice? You'd sit in that nice, cool spot. It's a nice, cool spot on the floor. You sit there. I'm talking to you, so you calm down. So I ignore her. She usually calms down. AMS. Did we... Oh, John Adams. Joan donated to the Joan Treat Fund. Thank you so much, John Adams. You are my favorite president. AMS. Did we talk about the strike already? SAG and WGA striking at a time is massive important. First time since the early 60s it has happened. Let us talk about it now. JEC, it depends on how aggressive you chase down the people using your images. It's like when rappers use samples. Yeah. But even that is like, a lot of times that's kind of new too. But yeah, it's going to be a mess. Thank you so much, John Adams. The Joan Treat Fund. We got treats now, Joan. You're getting treats. So yeah, let's talk about the strike. So Cusack is basically screaming about the studio greed, as if like he's not a multimillionaire. I guess. I tell you, the we were just talking about this at the film, my film group, and Cusack, I think 2012. That's what ruined him. God, that movie's awful. It's the worst movie ever, and they show it all the friggin' time. JEC, webcomic artists are using AI to merge their S drawings with professional manga artists. Manga fans are so autistic, they're chasing down the panels and they call it AI correcting their art. Wow. Yeah, you can't, I don't think you'll be able to do that to the weebs. The weebs will destroy you. I may have to go get Joan in a minute. She is off the hook today. But yeah, the strikes, they're unbelievable. Again, it couldn't be a worse time for the writers to go on strike. Like, you just came off of, I don't know, the worst time in American history for movies and TV. It's the worst time. TV is dying. Everybody hates the actors. That's for sure. That's for damn sure. People hate celebrities now. 90% of them. There's like a handful of guys that are still okay in the eyes of the public. Like Tom Cruise, maybe Chris Pratt, I think. Yeah, I think Chris Pratt. At least not with everybody, but certainly with the other side, the normal people. Like Tom Cruise, though, is still like movie star status. But so many other of these guys have ruined themselves over politics. Just absolutely ruined themselves. Everybody's mad at them. Everybody hates them. And then the writers, I think what really hurt them, besides just absolute crap coming out of the theaters and in TV, is She-Hulk. I think She-Hulk really hurt writers because they were so blatant as writers. Like, normally a show's terrible and maybe, I don't know, you hear from one of the actresses or one of the actors, and some of the actors from She-Hulk open their mouths. But it was almost nothing compared to the writers coming out of She-Hulk. I mean, that show. Ardent, Christian Bale gone mental yet? Not yet. He had a breakdown. I remember that. So, you know, and like Christian Bale's meltdown wasn't even that bad. It was at least about the movie. Like, people didn't get mad at Christian Bale for doing that. They just went, all right, Mr. Actor. And then they just rolled their eyes and moved on. But, like, you wouldn't say, I'm never seeing a Christian Bale movie again because he had a bad day at work. But, like, you see these actors, and I wish I had one of the articles up. You know, Breitbart always has a rundown when, I don't know, Trump does something and the usual suspects come marching out. Rosanna Arquette, and Rob Reiner, and Josh Gad, and all these idiots. And they all come out and they have to say something. Michael Rappaport, like, you just wonder why. And now, Ron Perlman. Ron Perlman's now the guy. I think there's an article about him because he ended up threatening. He was doing some rant online, and he ended up threatening kind of to burn down, in a weird, subtle way, he threatened to burn down Bob Iger's house or something because he made $27 million. He did this sort of round the bend kind of weird threat. Ardent, more of a tantrum than a meltdown. Yeah, and that's like kind of forgivable, at least more forgivable than somebody calling you a bigot for your political views, or saying, well, you just don't understand this show. Only bigots hate this. You know, only bigots hate Snow White and White and the Magical People. AMS. The most difficult thing to believe in She-Hulk was not the existence of superheroes themselves, but that a man could get away with being openly misogynist at an LA law firm in the current era. Yeah. Ardent, Ron Perlman, LOL, new Rappaport. Yeah. Him and Rappaport just, what the hell are you doing? And Rappaport's not even in anything. At least Ron Perlman's still working. JC, if mandating 20 writers in the writing room was a negotiation tactic, a big ask you don't expect to get, but you have to give it up for the studio to make concessions on AI. But I don't think they're that smart. I think the problem is, and I've talked about this for years, you can't get new people in is the problem. So long before things went woke, the problem in Hollywood, television, and in general was almost no shows will consider scripts outside agent writers, writers with agents, and writers who are kind of already approved and already in the union. Almost no show would. The one show that would look at spec scripts was Star Trek: The Next Generation. And that was probably only because Gene Roddenberry, I think, was alive right at the beginning. And that was kind of a nod to him. And it was like nearly impossible to get in. Nearly impossible. Although there still was a tiny little door open in the 80s, but not really. And they wouldn't even look at your script because part of it was a pragmatic concern because there were so many. And I explained that before when I tried to write for Moonlighting. I had an in to get my script looked at, and I talked to an agent, and he was like, I have, and it was a hot show back then, I have 100 Moonlighting scripts in my office right now. There are 3,000 agents in LA, and they all have 100 Moonlighting scripts. Do the math. So it's like nearly impossible to get in. And because of that, the same people get in again and again and again. The same kinds of people get in. The same friends of friends get in. And they're the people who write this stuff. And that's why it all sounds the same. That's why it's all bad. And now it's even worse because it's been generations of this. You know, at least when I was trying to get in the 80s, there was still a crack in the door open just a little bit. Now, like, You know, with the woke stuff, forget it. AMS, the message of She-Hulk was awful. Don't answer a higher calling and do something larger than yourself, but instead be selfish and party and pursue your own interest in life. Total narcissism. Yeah, kind of like the writers who wrote it. Ardent, Snow Wife sounds like a sequel to Cocaine Bear. Clint Miller, I'm not Rappaport. AMS, I was shocked by how small the WGA membership is. It's only a couple of 100,000, right? Mind-blowing. 160,000, I think it was. Ardent, yeah, Jean didn't die until season 3, I think. Yeah, so it's just the same people with the same ideas, and part of the conformist nature of the entire system is the studios decide, or the producers decide, oh, what's hot. So like when I was pitching for a while, X-Files was the hottest thing ever, and so everybody wanted X-Files stuff. Do you got anything that's conspiracy driven? Do you got anything that's like X-Files? Are there any aliens in your script? Is there a big conspiracy that gets uncovered? Before that, it was Die Hard. Die Hard in a mall. Die Hard in a ski lodge. Die Hard at an Arby's. Like, everything was Die Hard. And they don't want original concepts. That's the thing that the normies never understand. Like, they never understand when they say, what people yell at me online and go, oh, you've never had anything produced, you must suck. Like, no, that's not the way it works. If you write something that's like whatever's hot, like right now, wokeness is hot. So if you write some woke screenplay, and also true, if you're the right member of a certain group, a rainbow group, then they'll fall all over themselves. Even though that script might be terrible, it has all the elements they want, and you're the right story to tell. I think Diablo Cody was very much that kind of a hire. And it's just, that's just the way it is. And and that creates more uniformity. So you got the same people, and then they get influenced by the same bosses who are passing out the money. So I understand why they're pitching the same stuff, because it's the only stuff that's going to get made. Except for the handful of production companies that are maybe outside of that are trying to break in, and maybe they're looking for something new, and maybe they have a little money to spend on it, but it's nearly impossible. What they end up doing is they take concepts that aren't anything like what's hot, and then they try to bend it towards that. That's why everything gets wokeified, because being woke is still hot in Hollywood. So they wokeify everything because they think that's trendy and hot. Although now I think they've finally gotten the message, maybe, that it's not hot. But they've got the incentive of ESG, so they're still doing it. So that's why I'm sure somebody handed them a script for a James Bond-like character, the manliest character you could possibly think of, and they said, "Oh, it's great, we love it. Can you make him completely? Can you completely emasculate him and make him feminize him, and then have him drink soy lattes and complain about, I don't know, his underwear or something?" Like, that's totally makes sense in the context of how Hollywood makes things. So, AMS, WGA membership is 20,000. Just looked it up. Oh, I guess I'm thinking of SAG? It's 20,000? AMS, the percentage of those that are regularly active and working must be only a fraction. Probably. Yeah, and some of those people in the 20,000, they're not even writers. Because when I was trying to get this one screenplay, and the deal was, I can't really talk about this, I don't think. I'm not too sure. I didn't sign an NDA. I probably can, but long story short, we were trying to get one of my comic books optioned for a movie. And being a screenwriter, I said, well, I wrote a script. And the response was from one of my producers, but you're not in the union, so the studio will never approve you. However, I'm in the writers' union, said this producer who had probably never written, he hadn't written much in my view. He said, I'm in the union, let's pitch me as part of a team of writers who worked on the screenplay. And then this way, the studio might approve it, and then you'll be in the Writers Guild too. And I said, yes. And we tried that, but for various reasons, it didn't work. So a bunch of those people in the Writers Guild, they're not really writers. They're just producers who sit in meetings and go, hey, why don't you do this? And then some screenwriter goes and does all the work. And I promise you, there's probably some people ghostwriting these things that aren't in the union, that just get paid money on the sly, and they may never be in the union for some reason. So the entire union system doesn't seem to work in my view. So, you know, I know some guy he's holding a fundraiser for writers for the WGA because he's so upset that some of those writers are out of work. And I just thought, you know, the ones that are actually in the union who are working, I mean, they probably didn't get paid. Some of them didn't get paid that much. Like the She-Hulk writer complained he didn't get paid a lot of money. But the problem isn't even the pay. They do get paid. You know, if you get paid the union wage, you get paid fairly decently, and you get all the royalties on top of that. The problem is, do you qualify for the royalty? Or did you have to split it, as I would have had to have split it, with that producer? Or did you only get on the show and then be like a consultant, story consultant or something, where you get less and less and less? They know what this costs. They know all the costs in the contract. They're not going to give you the money unless they absolutely have to. So the idea of the union was to force the hand of the studios so they had to pay writers what they were worth. The reality is they know what they have to pay, and they're not paying a thin dime more. And so what they'll do is they go back, they backtrack, and then make it so they know exactly what they're paying. So if they only want to pay one writer, they're only going to pay one writer. And if they want to make it the producer, they're going to make it the producer. They'll figure out a way to do that. They'll call the guy who actually wrote the screenplay, the story consultant or whatever. And if he wants to file a motion with the guild and raise his stink, okay, that'll be the end of his career. But I think that's more how it works. Clint Miller, that explains how television featured cop shows, then medical shows, then murder mysteries, then space shows. Yes, they follow the trends. Ardent, yeah, trend chasing is a thing in Hollywood, and it's vanishing rare that a film bucks a trend. Right, but that starts the new trend, right? So one of the things they're talking about is the new trend will be video game movies, because Mario Brothers did real well. The new trend now is movie stars talking to the audience. Tom Cruise did it. He had a successful movie. Now Harrison Ford's done it. Jim Caviezel's done it. Now they're all going to do it. If they decide that's going to be the new trend and it works. Even if it doesn't work. If they just decide it's a trend, everybody in Hollywood starts talking about it, and then everybody just goes, yeah, we'll do that. They're like lemmings, I think. AMS, you're right about being paid under the table. Story for you. My buddy was an editor. His friend directed an awful Nick Cage movie called 211? I don't remember that one. Told the studio he would edit, then paid my friend one of two to actually edit for him for pennies. Total scum. 2 of 2. Oh, that's the responses. Sorry. Yeah, that's kind of what comic book guys sort of do, although it's a little more above board. That's like when you have a studio as a comic book artist, and then you have a bunch of young guys and they draw like you and they do most of the work, and then you come along and do the touches that you're known for, and then you hire a second guy to fill in all the blacks, and then that's how you crank out the page. And you're getting paid a high end because you're a big name, and then you pay, the guys underneath you some money, but they're also apprenticing underneath you, so they're getting taught while getting paid. Sometimes it's semi lucrative for everybody. Sometimes it's more of what you described. I've known guys who have done that, and most of them seemed okay with it because they were learning, but they're artists and they're not really good with the money or knowing what they're worth. Arden, they already did video game movies a few years back, Warcraft, etc. They were trash because the writers and directors didn't grasp the themes of the game, probably never played them. Think this is why they did a D&D movie again? I think why they did a D&D movie is because they see it as a big IP, and so that was a major factor. Since the Barbie movie was coming out, and that's a big IP, not sure, is Hasbro own Barbie? But the thing about D&D is Dungeons and Dragons says, if you don't know, it's gone completely woke. It's just been wokeified beyond belief. There's actually, just like there's a comics gate and a gamer gate, there's a, I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know if they have a name for it. I guess you'd call it D&D gate. So now there's a whole bunch of D&D guys who are sick of all the wokeness in their game because it's ruined everything. These ridiculous idiots who make weird analogy about race and gender in the game, and I think there was somebody arguing online about why you should have disabled characters in your D&D game, which made zero sense. I mean, I could see it once, maybe as a novelty, but it's like, oh no, you should have the option to be disabled in D&D. Like, what? Why would I want to play a disabled character in D&D? That sounds totally insane. So that's another reason too, I think. Plus, it's just it's ESG, man. It's a high level thing that gets them a lot of exposure, so they get more ESG from doing that. And then they, at least I think for the D&D movie, they tried to be somewhat subtle about it. I think they emasculated the male characters, but they didn't make it super obvious, at least in the trailers. It looked okay. The problem with the D&D movie, it's too inside baseball. There's no way anybody would get that. I mean, I got it just seeing the trailer. Oh, there's a displacer beast and a gelatinous cube and a few other things, but like most of those monsters didn't even make any sense when they created them. It's like, oh, you go into the dungeon, you find this giant gelatinous cube, and we were like, what? What do you mean? Like, it's a giant square, but it's clear. It's like Jello, and it eats things, and it slowly moves. And we'd be like, why is it here? Oh, it like cleans out the dungeon. Like, okay, can we kill it? And then we'd kill it. Ardent, I mean, I'd love to see a Heroes Unlimited or Rifts movie. I think the same company owns both Barbie and D&D. That would be Hasbro. I know Hasbro owns D&D. Clint Miller, Stranger Things woke D&D up. Oh, you think? Maybe that's it, yeah. JC, Dragon's Gate is a Japanese wrestling company. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, D&D Gate, I guess you would call it. So I don't know. They just... I mean, every few years now, it seems, they try to do a Dungeons & Dragons movie. People know what it is. But that's about it. I mean, only nerds really know the game, and the game's being ruined, so now people are leaving the game to try to do other systems and make them popular. There was another, I forget which one announced. Oh, I think it was Pathfinder, which was kind of the competitor to D&D. They announced they changed their OGL, their open game license, which would allow you to, it allowed me to make a complete Mafia for D20, and their OGL changed and kind of basically, if you're going to do an OGL, there's it didn't make it worth it. In other words, I'm sort of simplifying it, but long story short, Pathfinder did an OGL that's more like the original one, which is just wide open, make up whatever you want in our system, and we're fine with it if you put in the OGL. So they're trying to make Pathfinder the unwoke D&D game. Clint Miller, are those oval-shaped fuzzy dice hanging from your rearview mirror, Barbie? No. Ardent, I had it wrong. Mattel owns Barbie. Oh, okay. So Mattel owns Barbie. Yeah, now I remember that's the case. I guess they're trying to be Hasbro then, right? I mean, they see money. They see money. And quite frankly, a Barbie movie is long overdue. Long overdue. Barbie was one of the most popular comics at Marvel. It certainly was popular amongst girls. And Marvel had the license for a good long while, but then they canceled it because they were getting out of licensed stuff. But it's a shame. It was a very successful comic. Mattel should do the damn comic again. It probably would sell really well. I mean, you know, unless they woke it up. All right, so what was I going on to next? Oh, we're trying to talk about the strike. I got way off topic there. Nicolas Cage cancels attendance at Montreal's Fantasia due to SAG-AFTRA strike. So, getting back to the strike. The Writers Guild goes on strike. And at first, there's a little bit of buzz, and then it kind of just dies. And then, like, the DGA signed a deal. I'm not sure if they ever signed it, but they have a tentative deal, I think, at least. They might have signed it. I don't remember. But my initial reaction was the DGA is a union, the writers are a union, the actors are a union. If the DGA turns around to the producers and say, okay, we have a deal, but we cannot sign the deal until you settle with the writers, then that puts more pressure on the studios to settle with the writers. Same thing with the actors. Like, now that the actors have joined in, I think that's good, but I think they should be united in, like, well, we're not settling until you settle all of us. And that's it. But that's part of the studio strategy to divide and conquer, which makes sense. They're going to turn around and try to settle with one and then screw over the others. The one that they see easier. Like, the writers always get screwed to me. But in this particular case, I think things look so bad for the writers and actors that the studios might actually be looking at this as this is a perfect time for us to break the unions. And we could try doing things with AI, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, we'll at least still have content while we're trying to solve the problem with the unions, and we can at least try some things before we have to, like, I don't know, throw them away or whatever. So I think the studios are pushing hard behind the scenes going, okay, can we make this AI thing work? Can we actually shoot a movie without any actors? Can we actually get the AI to do the screenplay and then shoot that somehow? Now, they probably settled with the DGA because they see, like, the DGA guys, they're going to have to be the guys that actually create these damn movies that get built in the computer. Ardent, the Alyssa Milano headline explains Alyssa Milano. Yes. Um, so maybe they're going to break the unions, which on the one hand, I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I kind of can't stand a lot of the actors, but I kind of feel for not the actors we see, but the actors who probably are just getting by and just got in the union and they're just sort of squeaking through. Same thing with the writers. There's a lot of writers and actors that you never really see who are essentially working stiffs, and they sort of just barely hang on. Those guys are screwed. They're absolutely screwed. Stormy, hello everyone. Hello, Stormy. Arden says, "Hey baby, don't you be misogynist in my stream, Arden." So everybody says hi. Stormy, Clint says hi. The Stormy says hi. Hey darling. I think they couldn't have picked a worse time to go on strike. I think the studios wanted the strike and probably helped create the conditions so it would happen. And I think they're trying to create the conditions that it can extend as long as possible. Because I think the longer it goes on, the more likely it is they'll break the unions. Unless they start losing oodles and scads of money. But and think about if they actually were successful to break the unions, right? So they break the unions. Ardent misogynist. I didn't say anything about sandwiches. Ha ha ha. So like they break the unions, and now you build a movie in a computer. You don't need actors. Maybe you need writers, or you need a director with a good idea, and then you get the AI to fill in the blanks. You don't need the Teamsters anymore. You don't need the crew guys anymore. You're saving a lot of money. I mean, essentially, it would be like, what would your team be? It'd be about, I don't know, a dozen guys, a dozen nerds working on computers, and one director. And the director's just like, all right, you design the cast, you design the backgrounds, I don't know, you design the music, you design the lighting. You just give them all assignments, and then you sit there and build each scene. I mean, at first it'll probably take forever to make the movie, but as the AI progresses, and you got to think, if you're only paying, I don't know, 20 people to work on a movie, that seems like a pretty big savings. And you didn't have to use sets. And you didn't have to use props. And you have to pay all those people. So, either way, I think the unions are probably going to lose. Clint Miller, the way woke writing is tanking movies, the studios will do better by not pushing out product. Yes, up to a point. I mean, theaters are screwed. I mean, they're just going to be screwed unless they, I don't know, unless somebody steps up to give them product. Excuse me. But I think if you compare woke writing with the AI's writing, the AI is slightly better. And it if you tell it not to be woke, it won't be woke either, which will be a vast improvement. So I don't think the AI could write like an original movie, but I think if you fed in every screenplay from, say, Three's Company, and then asked the AI, write me a Three's Company script, it would probably write a halfway decent one, and then you could just edit the parts that didn't make sense. And I think you could do that with a lot of TV shows. So I don't know, name any show. If there's more than like 4 seasons of it, I think you got more than enough product. I mean, if it's funny, I don't think it'll be very funny. It'll be like kind of the same jokes over and over, but like a show like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that's been running for like, what are they on, 15 seasons? You're talking like 150 shows? I think the AI could probably write at least one or two halfway decent It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia shows. So all you would need to do is feed in screenplay after screenplay from every sitcom and just ask the computer, hey, write me a sitcom. And then once the AI is up and running to the point where it could actually create the sitcom visuals and the video, and we're pretty close to that, it's going to be wild. And it won't be... I mean, look, they did that... what was it called? Seinfeld Forever? That 16-bit Seinfeld that was running 24/7? Made no sense. I'd rather watch that than a bunch of woke idiots try to lecture me. Because at least the Seinfeld thing, I mean, something might happen. It was all random. But for TV, like current TV, I mean, think about a sitcom. Classically, it's 22 pages, 22 minutes. The commercials make up the other 8 minutes. Classically, there are 3 locations. Location for Act 1, location for Act 2, and location for Act 3. Or you kind of mix and match. You have 3 locations, you mix and match. If you only have to render 3 locations, maybe you render a 4th one just to mix it up a little bit. You know, Three's Company, it had 3 locations. The kitchen, the living room was the main location, and then there'd be one other location that would be the show, that particular episode. So the extra episode, the extra location might be Mr. Furley's apartment next door. But all of it would take place there. You could easily do that in AI. Clint Miller, my daughter was a fan of Jensen Ackles' Supernatural. AI could probably write scripts using old scripts and a monster compendium. Probably. Yeah. Storebang Entertainment is here. Regal Beagle. Ah, you know Three's Company. Good for you. Or rather, bad for you. That show was terrible. Ardent, Jack's Bistro. Another one. I think that was in it, right? Although I will say that show was so brilliant to bring Don Knotts in as a replacement for Norman Fell. Oh my God. I couldn't believe it. That was quite a step up. So yeah, these guys are screwed because what incentive, if the studio can get even one of those shows up and running somehow and people watch it, they are friggin' screwed. Imagine being able to create a TV show out of nothing and only being able to pay, you know, who are you really paying if the AI writes it? You don't have to pay the royalties. If it's a hit, my God, the amount of money you would make and save, because when a show gets syndicated, everybody gets paid 10 times in every market. Every market. So when the show goes to New York and they show, you know, whatever show, I can't even think of a current show because I haven't watched TV in so long. Two Broke Girls. So Storebang, I'm an old head. So Two Broke Girls, you know, the 2 leads in that, they show that show in the New York market on whatever channel it's on, I forget. That affiliate, they get paid. And then when it goes into reruns, they get paid 100%, 90%, 80%, all the way down to 0. 10 times for every market. So that's New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, all the big cities. They're all markets. There's dozens and dozens of them. and they're getting paid thousands of dollars in every market. And if it goes overseas, they get paid again. You usually don't go overseas for that kind of stuff, but under a new system with AI stars, you wouldn't have to pay them anything. You would just have to pay the people who wrote it or rendered it, maybe. And even that, you could work the contracts like, well, you already rendered this thing. We paid you once. And look, they had all these rules in place, and they still screw people all the time. I think it was Disney. Robin Williams had to sue Disney over residuals, I think, from Aladdin. And you got to think, like, why would they try to shaft Robin Williams of all people? He made that movie. That was all him. Aladdin was all Robin Williams and the genie. And they didn't want to pay him? Or whatever they paid him. I don't know all the details, Disney. I don't remember. Ardent. Okay, folks, gotta go. Have a good night, Tony. And the rest of you too, of course. Thank you, Ardent. Thanks for stopping by. So you eliminate all those royalties. You eliminate most of the royalties for everything else. The director, well, maybe you keep the director, but all the crew, I don't think they get royalties, but you don't have to pay them at all. They're all union guys. And all they need to do, again, is open the door a crack. So all they got to do is get enough in this round of negotiations. Kite is here. Hello. See you, Ardent. All they have to do is crack open the door just enough so they could get at least one or two shows out there. And once they decide, okay, this is going to work now. People like the AI show. It made X amount of dollars. It saved us a friggin' fortune. Then it's just going to be like, oh, okay, let's fire everybody. Because now we can build an entire studio based on that. And we don't need any famous people. We'll build famous people. And then we'll buy them. That's what comic books are, right? They made Superman, and then he was bought by the company. And now he's owned. He's an asset. They don't have to pay Superman. Kite. Yeah, I've been just listening while I cleaned up before bed. So, yeah, these guys are screwed unless they, I don't know what they could do. I know what they could have done. They could have not insulted the fans. That would have been the easiest thing to do. If they had come out during all the tumult and said, listen, you know, we have strong opinions about politics and we realize some of our fans disagree with us, but you know what? It's okay. At the end of the day, we all come together and we watch TV and movies. Like if they had done something like that and that had been the vibe in Hollywood, everybody would be up in arms about the strike. They would be, oh no, you got to pay the actors. They're good people, you know. I don't agree with them politically, but they're good people. That's what people would be saying now. Same thing with the writers. The writers aren't as visible, but certainly after the She-Hulk debacle, if writers had come out and said, well, we're not like that. We love our fans, or we love our fans and we'll do anything for them, that kind of thing. Then maybe people would have been like, well, some writers are a-holes, but not those writers, not most writers. Look at the optics of this thing. I saw a video with that guy Adam from Adam Ruins Everything. And he was ranting and raving about how the strike's going to win and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking to myself the whole time, you guys ruined this. And you don't really care about anybody other than yourselves. Nobody cares because of that. 15 years ago when Conan O'Brien had to go on strike because the writers were on strike, everybody was following Conan in the strike. He was doing stuff online and he was careful not to cross the picket line, but because now he was the host of the show or whatever, and he was really supportive of the writers, and people were supportive of Conan because I think Conan's one of the few guys who didn't piss on all the fans, although he's not really on TV much anymore. And, so people like that. And they liked him, and they liked the writers because of that. Kite, not insult the fans. In Hollywood, shenanigans. Shenanigans, I say. Yeah, that's the new trend now. Insult the fans. Insult them a lot. Because that gets you attention and clicks. Yes, it does. But then the fans leave. And then what do you have? Not a show. You have She-Hulk, a show nobody wants to watch, everybody seems to hate, and a show that had no audience to begin with. Who the hell is She-Hulk even for? Did anybody have that discussion in the meetings they had? No, they were too busy like, oh, we're going to own the fanboys on this one. Oh, you certainly owned us by ruining your own show. It's like, I'll teach you. I'll shoot myself in the foot. Blam! What did you teach me? That's horrible. See, I shocked you. Yeah, but you shot yourself in the foot. That's what's so shocking about it. I don't know. I don't see a good way out of this for them. Unless they are humble, not to the studios, but to the fans. Maybe they could come out and apologize. It's a little late for that, but I don't know. I think it's time to pull up stakes for anybody of any talent and go to Mark Wahlberg out in Las Vegas and say, hey, hire me. I want to get out of Hollywood. Angel Studios. Hey, Angel Studios, Mark Wahlberg, all those guys, hire me. I'll work for you. F these a-holes in California. F them all. I don't have a problem with religion. I'm fine with it. People can be religious. I've written religious characters. My characters have moral values. I'm all about that. Hire me. Plus, I'm awesome. Anyhow. Oh, who else is here? Everybody's coming in late. Aurelius Mosh. Hello, Antonius Delta. I've been listening in the background while working. Everybody's listening. They're lurking. So many people are in the stream. Hello. You guys missed it. John Adams gave me $5 for the treat fund. Checking over at Bounding in the Comics. Kite. Well, they don't need the shows and movies to make money. They'll be covered by subsidies and insurance, etc. But the few people that do see it will be further indoctrinated by the obvious messaging. I don't know if they are further indoctrinated by the same thing over and over again, because I just look at it the way I watch TV. There were messages when I watched TV, and I would just roll my eyes and go, oh, yeah, thanks. Now, maybe I have more of a discerning ear since I watch so much TV and I'm a writer or whatever, but I don't know. I think people just, for TV, a lot of people used to like to have the TV on just to have noise in the background so that it didn't feel like they were sitting in an empty room. It feels like the room is full if you're by yourself and you got the TV on, but you're not even really watching it. So, I don't know. Maybe. Abounding in the Comics, the Pokemon Company temporarily shuts down official all-ages forums, institutes new approval process after fans flood them with inappropriate content. Well, it looks like the 4chan guys discovered the Pokemon forum. What the hell happened over there? Oh, here's the set photos from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That's the old one. There they are. And there they are. They're not even dwarf sized. There's one dwarf in the lineup. The rest of them, it's like a diversity rainbow here. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And wasn't Peter Dinklage supposed to be one of them? I don't think that's Peter Dinklage, the short guy. Kite. It helps solidify their view, and they feel they need to enjoy it because it's so woke, and it's akin to further indoctrination by choice. That is true for some of them, I think. But I think even that just gets old. Storebang. My show sucks because it has a terrible writer, at least it's based. Then it can't suck. Based is good. Based is very good. Yeah, so Seven Dwarfs, God, it looks like total cancer. Kite, no dwarves. The left must be dwarfist. LOL. Yeah, there's one dwarf in it, and it's like dwarves are not human beings in that context. They are magical creatures like elves. Storebang Entertainment emoji. Disney and Lucasfilm survey moviegoers about the pros and cons of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Oh boy. I'd like to read some of those survey replies. That must have been funny. What the F? Where's my money? Let's see. AMS. A lot of what we're seeing was greenlit years ago, so we're seeing lag. I think that's worth keeping in mind. Hopefully we'll start to see non-woke stuff. They can't keep losing money like this. If that's true, though, they're in trouble, because what they've done is, for Disney, for instance, they've ruined the brand. I'll never go see Disney stuff. They would have to be based beyond belief for years before I'd finally go, all right, I keep hearing things. Let me go see what this is all about. Like, I didn't want to go see the Marvel movies when they were announced, because I'm very anti-Disney in general, even before that. And then everybody kept raving about the Marvel movies, and I went, all right, I guess I'll go see it. I did like Iron Man. Let's see what it's about. But how are you going to come back from this? It's been years of this. Years. This is just like what happened in the 70s with Disney. They were branded as baby entertainment, G-rated movies, family stuff only. Disney could not shake that. They had to go to outside production companies, build them up, and then later they reabsorbed them, and that was their sort of regular movie schedule in the 80s and 90s. And that took years. It took them probably close to 2 decades to get to the point where people are like, oh, it's a Disney movie, it's probably good. And then they weren't that big. They were just making regular movies. And then finally they got into the Avengers, and then it was like kaboomo. Now it's like, here's my theory of why that it's just gone off the rails. Kite. But even if it was greenlit years ago, they had time to edit and recut. Getting greenlit is just permission to make it. People have been pushing back against crappy woke films and shows for as long. That's true, but the studio hasn't decided to undo it. And I don't think Iger's undoing it either. I think he just wants it to be smarter. So in other words, he'll release a trailer and it'll be very not woke. So if you look at Elementals, that had a non-binary character, but they didn't advertise it like they did with Lightyear. Like Lightyear, it was like you would have thought the whole movie is about a lesbian couple. But with Elemental, they had a non-binary character thrown in there, and like nobody knew until after the movie came out. I think that's what Iger's going for now. He's going to go, oh, okay, you want to have all this woke stuff, but don't tell anybody. But even that's not going to win me back, and a lot of people. So they're going to have to fail at that, and then eventually get based. That's gonna what they'll probably try to do is buy a company like Angel Studios. They'll go to Angel Studios and they'll say, "We'd like to buy your company," and Angel Studios will say, "No, you're Disney. We hate you." And then they'll say, "Well, we'll buy your company, but you can still make all the movies you want." And then they'll be like, "No, you're gonna make it all woke, all right? No, we're all out of that. You can do whatever you want. Just deliver the movie, and we'll sign the contract." That's how it'll start. They'll buy some company, like, it might not be Angel Studios, it might be some other company, but you had a hit with this very traditional American movie, we want to buy you. And we don't We don't want anybody to know we bought you right away, but we're going to fund bigger and bigger movies. That's the way they'll do it. AMS, it's not about editing, it's about the script. So these scripts could have been written in a different era when this was all cool. It's true. But like, I just watched the trailer for the new King Arthur movie, The Winter King. It's going to be a series. You can't unwoke that with editing. There'd be no way. It's got a woke cast. It shouldn't. It shouldn't have diversity hires in the cast for the King Arthur. It's friggin' England in the 5th century. It should be all pasty Englishmen. And it's not. JC. They weren't even humans in Elemental. They addressed the little brother as they offhand. He's literally living water. Yeah, that made no sense either to me. It's like, why even bother like doing that with characters who are essentially inanimate objects? AMS. And perhaps DC will rise where Marvel fails. Flash, I heard, was actually good. And if you notice, DC seems to have avoided these agendas, I think. I don't think so. I think they're just... DC is classic for doing everything Marvel did 10 years behind the curve. Now, I think Zaslav does have an agenda to get out of it, or at least back off of it in a big way, but there's still woke stuff coming out of Warner Brothers. How long has it been now? He's running the show. He can't cancel Drag Race. He can't cancel all these drag shows. I don't know. Kite, Joan is really going for it. I know. I don't know what she's barking at. I think I've got the curtain open in the front room, and she must have saw a dog walk by. AMS, nothing irks me more than diversifying history. It's a one thing to do it with fantasy like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, but not with the actual history. Yeah, and that was my main complaint, because it's the 5th century, it's King Arthur, and they're trying to do a TV series more realistic. So it's like, oh, the Saxons are coming, and Arthur has to unite the tribes, and there doesn't appear to be any magic in it, and like there might be a little, but it doesn't appear to be like real magic. Maybe it's like all pagan magic or whatever. And like the one character you could maybe cast as black and get away with it would be Merlin, because he's considered like an oddball and he's an exotic guy. Maybe you can make that work. Oh, he's from a faraway land, that's why he's Merlin. But like Guinevere, you can't make Guinevere black. She's just not black. I mean, it's completely ahistorical. But this is, it feels like an English production, so it just makes me completely turned off. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, I don't want to watch this. JC, Drag Race is a huge show. Where the hell do you think these women get the ideas for going to a drag show in the first place? As long as it makes money, Warner doesn't care. I guess. It's making money. There seems to be so many drag shows. There's RuPaul's Drag Race, and then there's another drag show, and then there's some kind of drag reality show, and then they keep throwing drag queens in like other things. It's like, aren't we at a drag queen saturation point yet? Marvel Comics to unsurprisingly revive Kamala Khan as a mutant in upcoming Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant series. I may have to go out there. I should probably wrap up, but yeah, Kamala Khan is just a dumb character. We were waiting for the other shoe to drop. I think this is a relaunch Ms. Marvel so they can explain what the hell the movie's about and why Kamala Khan has different powers in the movies than she does in the comics. This is probably going to make her just like the movie character, I guess. JC, you can tell how popular it is by how many clones it has. That's true. It's like, I don't know a single person that watches that stuff, but I'm not a hipster living in New York, so. Oh, I think she stopped. No. And this one I gotta read. Kathleen Kennedy is rumored to stay on at Lucasfilm because no one wants the job. Can you imagine being so bad at your job they can't fire you because you're so bad at it? Okay, you've ruined things so much that no one wants to replace you now. Like, who cares? At that point, close down Lucasfilms. But they won't do that. I don't know why they think they need Kathleen Kennedy there at all. I think literally anybody else. Literally, if they picked a random person on the street or they just held the lottery and picked some random Star Wars fan, they'd do a better job than Kathleen Kennedy. This was big. Barry actor, the guy who plays Hank in Barry, if you've ever seen that show, he's very funny. He got cast as Metamorpho in Superman Legacy. I really like this actor. He's very funny. I think it's a good casting call. Initially, I saw the picture of just him and the headline that he was in Superman Legacy. I thought, oh, are they going to cast him as Lex Luthor? He'd be a funny Lex Luthor, but turns out he's Metamorpho. JC, dopey white women love these shows. It's a red flag when I'm dating a chick. Yeah, it's a huge red flag for me. Aurelius Mosh. Marvel is a universe with Spider-Man, the X-Men, Hulk, Iron Man, Doctor Doom, Fantastic Four, etc. They decide to do Kamala Khan. That should tell you everything about their intentions with content. Yeah, I can't wait until they take some of the New Mutants from some of the more recent history of the X-Men and make them main characters. That's what I'm expecting when they relaunch the X-Men. It'll be like Professor X and Cyclops and Wolverine, and then Jean Grey. But then they'll make the side characters are going to be these new characters. Like there was a new mutant who has antler horns and I don't know, killed the guy because of the environment. I think she's going to be a big part of the X-Men. That's my prediction. AMS. I think Bill Skarsgård will be Lex Luthor. Would be a good call. Yeah, he's a good actor. Kite. I watched a season of it. One person was funny. The show was totally cringe garbage, but I can see why it appeals to people. You don't even have to think. It's perfect for many. Are you talking about Barry? I thought Barry was good. I mean, at least the first season was good. After a while, it got a little too serious for me. I haven't watched the follow-up seasons, but Hank is very funny. What else? Anything else? I'm going to wrap soon. Just check the trades. Nothing. Here's Ron Perlman calling out Disney CEO Bob Iger, make my day. Just bizarre. Kite, I was talking about Drag Race. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get the appeal of drag, quite frankly. I went to a drag show after a comic book convention once, and was in a bar, and, one time, maybe? It's just like, this is weird. But, these people are obsessed with it. Oh, it's an art form. It's basically lip syncing with really ugly guys. Deadline. What's going on there? Everything's being crushed because of the strikes. Nothing's being made. So far, excuse me. I'm out of iced tea. I'm getting all phlegmy. It's Always Sunny star Rob McElhenney says he was diagnosed with neurodevelopment disorders and learning disabilities. Okay. Not sure why he's announcing that now. Weird. I think that's about it. All right. Oh, SAG-AFTRA will allow some truly independent producers to film during strike if they sign interim agreements. Oh boy. What's that all about? So, but what about, I don't think they'll get the actors and writers to cross the picket line. No, they do. Oh, SAG. No, SAG will cross the picket line. But what about the writers? Wouldn't the writers be mad? Kite. I don't get the appeal of drag itself, but the show is just a bunch of dumb people dancing terribly and hating on each other, i.e., perfectly appealing show for some. And by some, I think you mean women. Yeah, I don't see a lot of guys watching drag shows unless they're in drag shows. So, why would SAG allow independent producers to film? If anything, interim agreements, I guess. So, what are they agreeing to? That's weird. That might undermine the strike if they do that. But I guess, I mean, if as long as they're very independent and outside the studio system, but then the studio will go, F you, we won't give you distribution. Maybe. AMS, I got an email notice from the WGA that said I would never be admitted if I took work during the strike. I get it, but that was unsettling. JC, fix is in. I don't know. Because those producers aren't in their union, so it's a compromise. I wouldn't think they would have to care. The only people who would have to care would be the actors. And SAG lets you appear in non-union stuff. They give you waivers all the time. So, I don't know. It's weird. Anyhow, I'm going to start to wrap because Joan, I don't know. Hopefully there's not an axe murderer slowly going into my house. So next week, I'm taking suggestions for next week. So people gave suggestions one week, and I came up with a thing, or someone did, and then I took the ball and ran with it. So if you have any suggestions for that, Kite. Well, yeah, that's true, but I have known men who lack the testicular fortitude to say no, be made to watch it with a significant other. Oh, God, LOL. Yeah, I had an ex who she'd go, oh, watch a movie with me, watch a movie, and I'd sit down and then she'd get on her phone, and it drove me nuts, drove me absolutely out of my mind, and I'd be like, I didn't even want to watch this movie, and you're not even watching it. Why the F are we doing this? But yeah, I got a really high bar for movies, and most of my exes know that. Oh, let's go see this. Nah, I'm not seeing that. That sucks. Oh, no. You know who's in that? You know who wrote that? You know who directed it? Oh, you don't want to see that. Here are 10 other movies we should see. That's what it's like dating me, ladies. You imagine how annoying that must be for my exes? Oh, no. Here are 10 better movies. Pick one of them. Or I drag you to go see Sound of Freedom, I guess. Although that was pretty good. I don't know. It's not much of a date movie, though. You won't want to take a date to the Sound of Freedom. That's not a date movie. So many damn movies coming out still. There's a big strike going on. There's still like a gazillion movies coming out. I think partly the studios wanted this strike because they want to break a bunch of contracts and start over and hit the reset button because of there's a big recession inbound, and they just want to cut their cost, and they want to cut all the budgets, and then when they finally settle it and they'll all come back, they'll say, oh yeah, we're not going to do 10 of those movies, but the 3 we're going to do, yeah, your budget's like half. Kite, well, if that doesn't get you a bite, I don't know what will. I'm also out of luck being the same. Ha ha ha. Yes. Well, some days it's good to be single. Some days it's good. When you have money, it's good. Of course, when you have money, that's when you get a girlfriend. And then you don't have money anymore. And that's how it works, gentlemen. Yes, so I'm going to wrap it here. before little Joan, I don't know what she's barking at. My windows are fogged up. It's so cool in here from my air conditioner. It's so humid outside. It's like a terrarium outside. Never seen so much humidity in my life. And I live in South Jersey, and it is humid country here. It's like Florida right now. Florida is the only place that's worse than New Jersey in the summer. Yeah, next week, I don't know, I'll think of something, because I got nothing to do on that Sunday yet. Concluding, I think we learned a lot this Hollywoke Hot Take. AI is going to destroy Hollywood, and most people don't care. JC, if I had money, I could probably get a chick to stick around. LOL. You'd think that. You'd think it. I don't know. I wouldn't know. I never have any money. But thanks to John Adams, I have $5. So thank you once again, John Adams, for sending me a little something. Appreciate it. It makes my weekend just a little better, even though I got rained out. God. So next week we'll do a Hollywoke Hot Take. We'll do box office. We'll do more iced tea, and we'll see. Maybe by next week, AI will take over everything, and we'll be talking about AI movies. I don't know. How long will it take to make an AI movie? At first, it'll take months, but at some point, it'll take just weeks. Kite, until someone offers her a larger allowance. Yes. Yes. Yes, indeedy. It's all about the cheddar. It's all about the cheddar. I don't know. I don't know what it's about. That's why I'm single. That and I'm poor. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D, and Barky Little Joan, who just stopped. Kite, we can only hope. Let's go, all. Yes. Yes. My advice, stay off of Tinder. God, that's a cesspool now. The worst one is, what is it? Plenty of Fish. Oh, I got off of that one. It's just too... It's not good. I've noticed that I get more responses if I go on a new dating site. If it's brand new. But Clint Miller, 07. What does 07 mean? You out of here? Oh, you're saluting me. It's a little salute. Is that what it is? A little salute? I think that's what it is. Oh, internet. You have so many ways to communicate. All right. Gonna wrap it here. Joan is being quiet. Now I'm more scared than ever. All right. We'll see you next time on Hollywoke Hot Take Live. We did it live.